directors ask INEC to recognize Ninadi Usman as national chairman as Abure maintains there is no leadership vacuum. 11 PDP governors approached Supreme Court challenging legality of suspending Governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara. On the foreign scene, China announces 84% tariff on U.S. imports after Donald Trump imposed 104% tariff on Chinese goods. Good evening, this is news at 7 on Western Spring Television. I am Timitope Ajijola. The Federal Executive Council has officially directed the full implementation of the suspended Naira for crude agreement for local refiners. The government says its Naira for crude initiative with local refineries as not a temporary measure, but a key policy directive designed to support sustainable local refining. It added that the initiative is still in effect and will continue immediately overruling the decision of the NMPCL under its former boss, Mele Kyari, which tenured the initiative. The Minister of Finance, Wale Edo, at a meeting with representatives of the Dangote refinery on Tuesday, said the Naira for crude is still in effect. In a post on its official X handle on Wednesday, the Ministry of Finance said the Technical Subcommittee on the Crude and Refined Product Sales and Naira initiative met on Tuesday to review progress and address ongoing implementation matters. The stakeholders reaffirmed the government's continued commitment to the full implementation of the strategic initiative as directed by the Federal Executive Council. The Labour Party today held National Executive Council meeting in Abuja, the nation's capital. The meeting comes amidst the controversy over the recent Supreme Court judgment on the national chairmanship position for the Labour Party. It was held at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel and was chaired by former Finance Minister Ninadi Usman. In attendance were the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi and his running mate Dati Baba Ahmed, and the Abia State Governor Alex Oti. Senators and members of the House of Representatives who are members of the party were also present. Also present were governorship candidates of the party in Edo and Imo states, Olumide Akpata and Esan Atonu. In her opening remarks, the party's caretaker committee chairman said the Labour Party would review its governorship primaries for Anambra State and make its position known. In another development, leaders of the opposition Labour Party on Wednesday marched to the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja, the nation's capital, led by the party's 2023 presidential candidates Peter Obi and the Abia State Governor Alex Oti. The members were received by INEC National Commissioner Sam Olumeko. They asked the electoral body to recognize Ninadi Usman as the Labour Party chairman, days after the Supreme Court set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, recognizing Abure as the national chairman of the party. In a unanimous judgment last week, the 5-member panel of the Apex Court held that the Court of Appeal lacked the jurisdiction to have pronounced Abure national chairman of the Labour Party. Having earlier found that the substance of the case was about the party's leadership, the court allowed the appeal filed by Senator Esther Usman and one other and held that it was meritorious before subsequently proceeding to dismiss the cross-appeal filed by the Abure faction of the Labour Party for being unmeritorious.
Quick relief, as the court rightly observed, was inserted as relief number 5, as though it was an appendage. Consequent upon the foregoing, the decisions of both trial courts and the court below recognizing Barrister Julius Abure as the national chairman of the first respondent are hereby set aside, and suit number FXC is hereby struck out for want of jurisdiction. In the same vein, the first respondent's cross appeal, and that is INEC, No, that's the Labour Party under Abu, is being an offshoot of the same judgment of the court is hereby dismissed. Before I am done, may I admonish political parties and their members to endeavor to always allow their constitutions, rules, regulations, and guidelines to guide them in choosing their officers as well as candidates. That way, incessant internal risks, which always find their way to God, should be reduced. If the constitution of a political party has prescribed duration for tenure of office of an officer such as this one, such officers should be humble enough to leave at the expiration of the tenure. In the final analysis, I find this appeal to be meritorious and is hereby allowed. Party shall bear their respective costs. Appeal allowed. And this is signed by Honorable Justice John Okoro, Justice of the Supreme Court.
While the Julius Abure-led Labour Party has insisted there is no leadership vacuum in the party following a recent Supreme Court judgment on the party's national chairmanship position. In a statement released by the National Publicity Secretary, Obiora on Wednesday, the party said there is nowhere the Apex Court's judgment stated that the leadership of Julius Abure-led executive has elapsed, or that Nenadi Usman and her National Caretaker Committee has been directed to take over the leadership of the Labour Party. The statement follows a National Executive Council meeting on Wednesday at the Transco Hilton Hotel, chaired by former Finance Minister Nenadi Usman. However, the Abure Group maintains that any meeting convened and disregards to the constitution of the party as illegal and the outcome null and void. The leadership of the Labour Party on Wednesday described the threat by the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) to invade its offices nationwide as a subtle blackmail to make the Julius Abure-led leadership look like a villain before the Independent National Electoral Commission and security agencies in the country. The party also said it will seek the protection of the security agencies and mobilize members across the nation to resist the invasion of its offices nationwide. The National Publicity Secretary of Labour Party, Obiora disclosed this in a statement issued in Abuja. Ifo was reacting to Tuesday's directive by the NLC President Joe Ajaero, asking union leaders to begin the process of mobilizing their members in readiness to invade and take over the 36 offices and National Secretariat of the Labour Party. The NLC President's directive comes in the wake of Friday's judgment of the Supreme Court, which vacated the earlier judgment of the lower courts. Ajaero said they cannot continue to fold their hands and watch the Julius Abure-led National Working Committee defy the Supreme Court's pronouncement. But he forewarned that hooliganism and rascality, as the NLC leader is allegedly exhibiting, should not be seen as traits of a good unionist. In the meantime, 11 governors of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, have approached the Supreme Court challenging what powers the president has to suspend the democratically elected governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara. The suit filed by the governors also challenged the declaration of emergency rule in Rivers State, while the media previously reported that the suit had been filed before the Supreme Court. The governor's suit was only filed before the Apex Court on Tuesday. The plaintiffs in the suit are Adamawa, Enugu, Osun, Oyo, Bauchi, Akwa Ibom, Plateau, Delta, Taraba, Zamfara, and Bayelsa states. They urged the Apex Courts to determine if the president has the power to suspend a democratically elected structure of a state. The plaintiffs also asked the court to determine if the way and manner President Bola Tinubu pronounced the state of emergency declaration in Rivers State is not in contravention of the 1999 Constitution. Meanwhile, the Rivers State government has announced the appointment of administrators for the 23 local government areas in the state. The decision, approved by the administrator of Rivers State, retired Vice Admiral Ibok Ataibas, also includes the reconstitution of some boards of agencies, commissions, and parastatals that had earlier been suspended. According to the statement by the Secretary to the state government, Ibibia Warika, the appointments are to take effect from Monday, April 7, 2025. The development comes barely a week after IBAS suspended all boards, parastatals, and commissions and sacked political appointees installed by Siminalayi Fubara. The suspended Rivers governor on March 25, IBAS announced the resignation of Judge Nweke as head of service. The affairs of the oil-rich state have been controlled by the sole administrator since President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency over a protracted political crisis and vandalization of oil facilities. Here in Osun State, Osogbo residents have decried the recent poor electricity supply that has bedeviled the state's capital, which has caused some businesses to shut down. Some business owners count the losses, while others have changed trajectory. Lydia Adegbachu completes the story.
It has not been business as usual for residents in Osogbo, the state capital, especially for business owners and entrepreneurs who depend on electricity supply for livelihood. The recent epileptic or zero power supply in some cases has become a source of frustration for many. Mrs. Taiwo Iyola, who deals in frozen foods around Bafo area Osogbo, has now switched to roasting groundnuts due to the power outage that has shut down her business for months. Counting her losses on the loan she took for the business, she stated how she had to resort to smoke drying some of the fish while selling some at loss before they ended up turning to maggots.
But torí pé ẹja yẹn ti bàjẹ́ mi fẹ́ lùsì owó tó pọ̀ ńbẹ̀ so mo kàn ta ní cheap ni mo ń ta márùn 1,000 mo ń ta mẹ́fà 1,000 dípò kí mo ta ní mẹ́ta 1,000 naira so strategy yẹn kò fi ní pọ̀ lọ́rùn mi ni mo yan wọ́n ní dípò kí mo ta tútù mi rí ta tútù mo kàn yan wọ́n ní kò dẹ̀ pè mí bí mo ṣe yan wọ́n yẹn èédú máa tún lò máa tún ra èédú àpò.
Mr. Shogo Akinlabi, another frozen food dealer at Balogun Agoro, paraded some of his goods that were already degenerating. He recalled how they used to enjoy 24 hours power supply in the area, but that has now reduced drastically, and recounted the stress he had to go through to keep the cold room working and the fish intact.
24 hours la fin do na be bayi tẹ́lẹ̀ but nisin kò pé 24 hours mọ́. Carry that ton ra ton leleyi kò ton tó ele tá ra tẹ́lẹ̀. Most of ẹja tá load sínú cold room ló ti ń bàjẹ́ due to pé iná yẹn ṣe ségesège. Nítorí hours tí irú sìn báyìí ó yẹ kí iná wà kí a tanná sí cold room. But àríná tàn sí ẹja tí ń bàjẹ́ o. Most of time ga máa ń lo generator láti fi power engine kẹja má bàa bàjẹ́. Ẹgbà mi tí ó bá síná a tún kó lọ sí another cold room kó lè bá ní àìsè dáadáa. So kò jẹ́ ká lè rajà gan sílé too much.
Meanwhile, Miss Elizabeth Abimbola, a photographer at Okini, could not open shop today because of the epileptic power supply, which has halted work activities for weeks. Ms. Abimbola, who says she stayed back after a youth service in the States because of the stable power supply, is now regretting her actions and is at the verge of relocating.
Not having lights generally has been affecting work. We have to buy fuel to power the gen. If you can't buy fuel, we can't work. Probably there is nothing possible. You can see I'm having a power bank here trying to charge my phone. And right now I have to go home to plug the power bank once this phone is fully charged. So it has not been an easy something for every one of us here. Light is not something of, like, it's not even helping. It's not helping the matter at all. I have so many work I have to do on the system. But if you charge the system, it has a lifespan, maybe probably 5 hours. After the 5 hours, how do I do it again? I'll still have to on-gen, saying I want to charge again. So light issue here in Okini is not promising. In fact, I've seen people advising me that can't you change your location. I came to serve in Osogbo and I ended up staying because there was light and it could help my work. But in
on her part, Mrs. Ronke Oladejo, who is into fruit drinks, has halted that business for weeks now, as a poor power supply has caused sales to dwindle and has now switched to confectionaries.
I do kunu, tiger nuts, and the rest.
soft drinks, and over 2 months, over 2 months ago, the business has gone down. And if the drinks, if it's not chilled, people will not appreciate it. I can't amount it due to it's daily stuff.
Similarly, fashion designers like Mrs. Bukola Kolawole and Mr. Kolawole Olaniyan lamented how business has been slow even during the festive period because there is no electricity supply to make deliveries. Despite classifying electricity consumers into different bands in order to enhance service delivery and revenue collection, the Nigerian power sector remains fraught with inefficiencies. This is as Ms. Abimbola further lamented how she still has to pay electricity bills even without power supply.
And I have to pay NEPA bill. Get the point right. As at yesterday, I paid. Yes, even without light, I paid yesterday. They asked me to pay yesterday. I had to pay yesterday. And the funniest thing is, the bill continued to increase.
In the meantime, residents are pleading with concerned authorities to look into restoring regular power supply so their sources of livelihoods can also be restored, as some say they are at the verge of ending it all. Lydia Adegbaju, Western Spring Television News.
Moving on, the Zamfara State House of Assembly has lost one of its members, Aminu Kasuwaradaji, who represented Kora Namoda South constituency. He reportedly died in his sleep in the early hours of Wednesday. The All Progressives Congress, APC in Zamfara State expressed deep sorrow over the sudden demise of the lawmaker. In a statement by the Publicity Secretary of the party in Zamfara State, Yusuf Idris, the party's state working committee executives and supporters mourned the loss, describing Kasuwaradaji as a dedicated, honest and God-fearing individual who served both his constituency and humanity with passion. The party extended its heartfelt condolences to the deceased's immediate family, the people of Kora Namoda South, and members of the state's assembly. Members of staff of the Ondo State-owned Rifle Skiwa Polytechnic, or Ondo State, have commenced an indefinite strike over non-payment of their salary arrears by the Laki Ayedatiwa administration. The workers under their various unions staged a peaceful protest on the Polytechnic campus. The angry workers said apart from being owed for 6 months, the state government has not implemented the national minimum wage for them. Union Chairman Julius Olubengaro, in his address, appealed to Governor Ayedatiwa to authorize the immediate payment of the workers' outstanding salaries. He also demanded the commencement of the payment of the new national minimum wage for the workers. In Oyo State, members of the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria Pensioners Association on Wednesday staged a protest in Ibadan, demanding the payment of their approved minimum wage and palliative award. The protesters gathered at the Nigeria Union of Journalists Secretariat in Iyagokun, Ibadan, wielding different placards. The chairman of the association, Shola Ogunmola, who led the protest and shared their frustrations, explains that while retirees from ministries are receiving their minimum wage, FRC and retirees are still waiting for theirs. Ogunmola also highlighted issues with pension arrears, saying not all DBS pensioners got the 8 months of arrears from the 20% pension increase that was approved in January 2024. You're watching news at 7 on Western Spring Television. Still to come, Nigeria Customs Service impounds consignment of illicit drugs valued at 18 million naira from suspected smugglers in Cross River State. We'll bring you more. Welcome back. This is still news at 7 on Western Spring Television. A reminder of our headlines. The Federal Executive Council has officially directed the full implementation of the suspended Naira for crude agreement with local refiners. Leaders of the opposition Labour Party on Wednesday marched to the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Abuja, the nation's capital. 11 governors of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, have approached the Supreme Court challenging what powers the president has to suspend the democratically elected governor of Rivers State, Siminalayi Fubara. On the foreign scene, China has announced an 84% tariff on U.S. imports to take effect on Thursday after Donald Trump imposed a 125% tariff on China's goods entering the United States. In other news, the Nigeria Customs Service has impounded a consignment of illicit drugs valued at 18 million naira from suspected smugglers in Cross River State. The seizure, which occurred at the MFUM border, was carried out by the Cross River Calabar Free Trade Zone and Akwa Ibom Area Command of the NCS. A total of 659 units of controlled substances were recovered and have since been handed over to the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and DLEA for further investigation and prosecution. The intercepted drugs include 216 units of pethidine, 100 mg to 116 units of morphine sulfate, 37 packets of phenobarbital, 37 units of sodium stearate, 108 units of fentanyl 50 mm, 33 units of midazolam Milan, and 26 units of sodium injectables. At the official handover ceremony held at the NCS Command Headquarters in Calabar Wednesday, the area comptroller, Gabriel Ogbonna, commended the vigilance and dedication of his officers, emphasizing that the operation was a reflection of growing synergy between customs and the NDLEA. On the foreign scene, China has announced an 84% tariff on U.S. imports to take effect on Thursday after President Donald Trump imposed a 125% tariff on China's goods entering the United States. The Chinese tariff is an increase from the 34% it already imposed on American imports, as China maintains it is not backing down. Meanwhile, the European Union has voted to impose tariffs on some U.S. imported goods from April 15, while more goods are due to be hit in May and December. Trump says countries hit by his tariffs are calling up in a bid to negotiate, as he tells the U.S. to be cool, noting that everything will work out. Elsewhere, hundreds of rescue workers in the Dominican Republic continue to search for survivors of a roof collapse at a nightclub in the capital, Santo Domingo. Officials said at least 124 people died and more than 150 were injured in the incident, which happened on Tuesday at the Jet Set Club. Head of Emergency Operations Juan Manuel Mendez estimated that his team had 24 to 36 hours left to try to find survivors under the rubble. Hundreds of guests were inside the popular venue, attending a concert by merengue singer Ruby Perez. Perez, as well as former Major League Baseball players Octavio Dotel and Tony Blanco, and a provincial governor are among those who have been confirmed dead. In Europe, Germany's conservatives under Friedrich Merz have reached a deal with the Social Democrats to govern Europe's biggest economy, 5 months after the previous government collapse. 69-year-old Merz said their agreement sent a strong and clear signal to Germans and the European Union that Germany will get a strong government capable of action. The two sides have been under intense pressure to put an end to Germany's political limbo since Merz's Christian Democrats won federal elections in February. Germany has been buffeted by economic turbulence caused by President Donald Trump's trade tariffs, and recent opinion polls suggest the far-right anti-immigration alternative for Germany has now overtaken Merz's party. Merz may have to wait until next month for the new parliament to elect him as chancellor, but should have no problem with a 13-seat majority announcing the coalition deal. He said the parties had worked very hard over the past few weeks, stressing that they have a strong plan to bring the country to the forefront again.